What can we learn from Arturo Toscanini about the preeminence of Jesus? Well, our guest is going to tell us all about it in just a sec. Welcome to the show. I'm Daniel Dalp, and this is For Your Sunday Morning Drive. We're the short podcast with the goal of providing some motivation, drive, and encouragement on your way to worship and helping you recenter your mind on those spiritual things on hectic Sunday mornings. Our guest today is my friend Bryan Dill. Bryan preaches at the Church of Christ in Indian Land, South Carolina, just across the border from Charlotte. Bryan is a baseball enthusiast as well as a fellow partaker in the world of tabletop games. He's also the co-host of the Fully Equipped podcast alongside Keaton Pierce, who's also been on the show before. I do encourage you to follow their show, give it a listen, and I'll be sure to include a link in the show notes. I'm so thankful that Bryan agreed to be on the show. And let me tell you, the thoughts that he prepared for you this morning are fantastic. I urge you to slow down, listen to them, take them to heart, and apply them to your life. Bryan, thank you so much for being on the show this morning. So let's go ahead and get it on the road. This is episode 99, Toscanini, Beethoven, and Jesus. Let's go to church.
Are we there yet?
I grew up listening to a lot of classical music, everything from Mozart to Beethoven and Tchaikovsky and all the others. I've always loved the power and the passion that comes through in that kind of music. But I came across a story a few years ago that really stuck with me. It's about Arturo Toscanini, the Italian conductor. He was one of the most acclaimed musicians of the late 19th and early 20th centuries. At different times in his life, he was the music director of the Metropolitan Opera in New York City. He was the conductor for the New York Philharmonic Orchestra. But in 1937, Toscanini was named the very first music director of the NBC Symphony Orchestra. And this led to him being more of a household name in America. And even though I would say most are not very familiar with that name today, he was a giant in the industry. There's a story of a time when he directed an orchestra that performed Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. And this is a symphony that is widely considered one of the greatest symphonies ever composed, if not one of the greatest pieces of music ever written. In fact, a portion of it is the tune to the song that we sing, "Joyful, Joyful, We Adore Thee." It is a challenging piece of music, but Toscanini and his orchestra performed masterfully. And afterwards, the audience erupted in a standing ovation, and the applause just kept going and going, and cheers could be heard from the audience again and again. And after Toscanini had bowed and the orchestra had bowed, in the midst of all this resounding praise being given them, Toscanini turned to the orchestra and he says, "I am nothing, you are nothing. Beethoven is everything." Now, this was not meant to deny the incredible talent of the musicians. They were professionals. They were some of the very best in the world at what they do. However, Toscanini was reminding them that they were merely the vessels through which the incredible talent of Beethoven was expressed. Without the genius of Beethoven, they would have been left without something incredible to play, and Toscanini would have been left without something so spectacular to conduct. I'm often reminded of this moment in Toscanini's life on Sunday mornings specifically, because we live in a culture that encourages us to think of ourselves as the center of the universe. What you want is what matters most. And if you don't get it your way, or if there's something that doesn't meet your standards, it's time to talk to the manager, right? And since that's such an easy and common approach to many other parts of life, it's really hard not to let that mindset slip into the way we approach Sunday mornings. If the songs aren't my favorites, or if the preacher's too long, or the preacher's too short, or too dry, or I don't think the lesson applies to me, or if the temperature in the room isn't just right, then I'm going to complain. And maybe at first I only complain to my immediate family, or maybe if it happens enough, I'll complain to other church members or the elders, or if it isn't fixed, I might just go somewhere else. But this is a very unhealthy way of thinking about Sunday mornings, or any other time we're with our church family. We would do well to remember the word that Paul wrote in Colossians 1 about Jesus. By him, all things were created in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities, all things were created through him and for him. And he is before all things, and in him all things hold together. And he is the head of the body, the church. He is the beginning, the firstborn from the dead, that in everything he might be preeminent. Do you hear what Paul's saying there? That last word, preeminent, really sums it up well, I think, because it means Jesus is the foremost, the greatest, the most important. And while that is true every day of the week, it is especially true when we come together for worship on Sunday mornings. The encouragement that I get, the fellowship that I get to enjoy, these kinds of things are a distant second to the main reason we are here. Jesus is the reason we even have these opportunities. So to borrow from and I think improve on what Arturo Toscanini said, I am nothing, you are nothing, Jesus is everything. Not that you are without value, not that we have nothing to contribute to this world, but like those musicians, we are merely the vessels through which God's glory and power is expressed. Without Jesus Christ, this life would be severely lacking in significance. So remember why you're here on Sunday morning. It's about our loving, compassionate God who has blessed us beyond our comprehension. Let's focus on that today.
Bryan has shared some great thoughts with us this morning. Now it's time to hear yours. And don't forget, you can always share your responses to the discussion questions each week right on our website at foryoursundaymorningdrive.com. Our discussion questions for this week are, in what ways have we maybe misplaced the focus of our worship? How can we better recognize the preeminence of Christ? And in what ways do we spend more time complaining than worshiping our God? How can we be better? Hey, thanks for listening. And a big thanks to Bryan for sharing his thoughts with us today. Be sure to follow the Fully Equipped podcast. I hope you have a wonderful week. Focus on Jesus, and I'll see you Sunday.
We're here.